Welcome
Hi.
once again to Soul Speak, where we
Mhm,
talk about what's on our minds, what's in our souls, with
mhm.
Grace and Rachel, and Rachel and Grace. Hi, Grace.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I am great, thank you. Today, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to call it like a kind of a touchy and taboo subject of financial literacy. The
You
reason
think
I
it's
call
touchy?
it, I do think it's touchy because I think a lot of people don't like talking about money. I would say that in the Black community, um, because it's one of those things that a lot of people have ignorance around, including myself. So it's one of those subjects where it's like leave well enough alone because we don't really know what to say and think about it. Yeah, that's how I
I
think about it.
I
That's
think
how
it's
I
the
think
opposite.
that people think. Hmm?
I think the opposite.
Hmm.
I basically feel like in our community, people do talk about money, but I think it's not rooted in anything that is tangible or true understanding. So we love to talk about money in terms of getting the bag,
Mm-hmm.
getting the money,
Mm-hmm.
acquiring wealth, making money, all of
Mm-hmm.
these different things. So, where I feel like we fall short in is understanding how to make money work for us, understanding how to grow money, understanding how to be responsible with money from a very young age. That's what I think we struggle with.
So I would say you're agreeing with my point because what you discussed was people not knowing about financial literacy. We
Yeah,
talk about money, but not financial literacy. So
yeah,
it is
absolutely.
taboo in our community to talk about financial literacy specifically.
As opposed to, as
As
opposed to money,
opposed
I
to
think that's what.
making the bag is not financial literacy. Understanding how to grow your money is not financial literacy. It is simply talking about money. It's not
Uh,
literacy.
but you said it's talking about money. That's what we shy away from. When it's like, no, we don't.
So you're right. Let me correct that. What I meant was we do not talk about money in an educated manner. We talk
Yes.
about, yes, money, but not in a way that is productive for
Yeah.
us or that it teaches us anything. So
Yeah.
sorry for not including the word literacy. What I meant was financial literacy. It is a
Yeah.
taboo subject in
Hmm.
our community, financial literacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do we think that? Why is it's one of those things where um it's almost perpetuated over and over again, as opposed to there being a stop and us trying to work on truly understanding.
So I'm gonna
Um,
go ahead and let you answer that question first, and then I'll
um,
go for that.
um, I think I think when you grow up lacking and not having,
Mm-hmm.
and you are in a situation where you're always trying to survive, you're trying to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the first thing you're thinking about is financial literacy. I think the first thing you're thinking about is I need to fend for myself and for my family. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us come from those types of backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be you are on, welfare. For us, is completely different. We call it benefits,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if it's one of those things where if you come from an immigrant family where, first generation and you are struggling to find a job that pays well, or a lot of us, we know family members or friends who haven't finished their education or gone to higher education where, I would say opportunities are limited in order for you to really fully understand and fully put yourself out there and um, earn as much as you can, but also learn these things as you're going along. I think for our community, we're always on survival mode, and
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of things play a part in that. I think politics plays a part in that. I think prejudice plays a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
So many different things.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to stop that continually perpetuating the same things, where we're actually teaching our kids, don't make the same mistakes that we did, don't do these same things. This is the part that I find difficult to
Mm,
reconcile,
mm,
because I do understand that a lot of us come from difficult upbringings, and a lot of us, let's say the amount of money probably we make now, our parents didn't get to see that, right?
mhm, mhm,
Or our grandparents didn't get to see that. And as you go further back, and you will see that we actually do so much better. Every generation does way better than the people that come before them.
mm.
But for us in particular, this is the part that I struggle with, of using this time when you say, you know what, I didn't get to have that. I didn't have those types of opportunities, but I want my children to learn. I want them to have an understanding. I want them to know how to save. I want them to know how to be diligent with how to spend their money, how to be how to be to make sure that what they are doing with their money is useful, um, instead of just going out there in the workforce, working, making money, getting your bag, only for you to blow it up again.
So let me ask you, because it sounds like you said several things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
First, we talked about why do we think that there is a lack of financial literacy in our
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you spoke about the generational,
Mm-hmm.
not passing on the knowledge generationally.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the lacking
Mm-hmm.
aspect and what that does. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't quite catch what you meant about us handling our money in this generation better as opposed to our predecessors.
I didn't
I
say
understood what you said, but I didn't understand how you tied it in.
I I didn't say that we handle our money better. I'm saying
Okay.
that with every generation we make more money,
Make more
right?
money. Okay.
We make more money than the previous generation. That's
Hmm.
the opportunities that's afforded to every generation, not just within the
Hmm.
black community, it can be any community, right? But what I'm
Hopefully.
saying, yeah,
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say is, with that being said, when we are earning more, and let's say we are studying more, and we have all of these things open to us, why is it not a situation where we are constantly trying to teach children within our community, young people within our community, how to be wise, and um, how to be knowledgeable
Okay.
in all facets of money handling. And I'm
Okay.
not talking about people who have studied finance. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm not talking
Hmm.
about people who make sure that money is their business. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about your average Joe, the average person down the street who is just trying to make a living, or not even that, there's people who still make money, a lot of money, and still end up either going bust, going bankrupt, not have, do you see what I'm saying? So it
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily matter what level you are in terms of how much you earn a year. There is a lot of ignorance within our community, specifically when it comes to money handling. And that
Yes.
hasn't stopped. So my concern is, why is it that it's constantly being perpetuated more so than in any other community out there?
Okay, so let me see if I could even tackle this with the array of thoughts going on in my mind. So,
Mm,
firstly, where Black people as a whole are concerned, and I mean Caribbean, African Americans, Africans, we
mm,
are a race that has been preyed upon to be dominated,
mm,
right? And the domination aspect has really influenced the race that is more powerful. And where power comes, the money and the wealth follows. So I will say that once you dominate a culture, you're making money off of these people, right? Off of Black people, and so many, there are so many detrimental aspects of what happens to the culture that is being dominated, but it's important that we remain ignorant. it's it is important for the dominant culture that we remain out of um, knowledge, because that's how money will be able to be made more easily. So I will say, where the Black community is concerned, and I defined all of the Black community um, that I'm talking about, is we've been intentionally kept out of um, knowledge of how wealth works. I am not saying that there are not pockets of individuals who are Black who have not defied that. But overall, if you're dominating a culture and keeping them ignorant, I mean, it was illegal for, say, African Americans and many slaves to even know how to read. So something just as simple as that, as keeping us out of the mainstream of how to gain power, that's an aspect of it. So I'm going to bring up an example. Like, overall, I know for African Americans, I don't know about Africans, I would say Caribbeans too. Caribbeans don't overall like going to the doctor, right?
Mhm.
And it's not something that comes from this generation.
Mhm.
It is a fear that has been put into us generations ago that is still perpetuated today. So
Mhm.
I will say the same thing where financial literacy and ignorance of that aspect of our lives are concerned. This is something that is generational. Um, it served the dominant culture for us to be ignorant in this area. And this is something for us to be aware of, to rise out of, you know? Um, so it is not, I'm not going to say it's the responsibility of the dominant culture to teach us, but if you have forces like that are against you, it's going to make it that more difficult to attain something that is easy for the dominant culture. So that's what I think has happened. Um, we were fed a lot of information that wasn't true.
Mhm.
And rather than research it for ourselves, because again, we've been swimming up against a tide for hundreds of years, it's
Mhm.
just easier to, go a certain route,
Mhm.
go the easier route.
Mhm.
And when you're ignorant and we're fed misinformation, we start to make up stuff on our own too. So which is
Mhm.
the blind leading the blind, basically.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, it's quite convoluted, but that's where I think it comes from. We were taught, really, we were led the wrong way, and not a lot of people are interested in going the right way, and not a lot of people have talked about it in the past, but I do see that changing. So that's my
Um,
answer.
I do agree with you. I do see that changing slowly,
Hmm.
but I would like to play the devil's advocate because when we look at ethnic minorities,
Hmm.
right, whether you are of Black descent or African descent, whether you are Asian, whether you are, well, let's say Mexican, South American, do you know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
any type of Asian, Indian or Chinese
Hmm.
or Jewish.
Hmm.
We, like you said, no one has taught us this, but we're not taking the responsibility ourselves.
Hmm.
Because if you look at all of these other communities, whether there is a tide pushing against them or not, they've made it their priority.
Mm.
You know what I
So
mean?
I got into a full out argument with somebody
Hmm.
about this, like
Because that's what
maybe
people would
1 or 2
say, right?
years ago. Um, Bless you.
Thank you.
My issue when
Hmm.
someone brings, the comparison of Jewish people, Mexican people, Chinese
Hmm.
people, Indian
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
Africans have been made over and over, and I'm saying Africans, African Americans, Black people,
Hmm.
because there's so much hidden about what has happened to Black people. It's
Hmm.
easy for people to say, hey, Black people after slavery, you were
Hmm.
afforded an opportunity that you have not taken. And what a lot of people don't know and don't take into account were all of those opportunities that Black people did take, but yet they
Hmm.
were destroyed over
Hmm.
and over. So you've
Hmm.
got, the Black Wall Streets. There wasn't only one Black Wall Street, but there's one, of course, that we know of, popular in Oklahoma. Oh my God, what's the name of it?
I
It
don't
was
know.
in Oklahoma. It was in Oklahoma. Oh my God, the name escapes me right now, which I am
Hmm.
so upset about. But after the Reconstruction, right? And that was like a 10-year period after the Civil War,
Hmm.
where rights for African Americans, they were rising. A lot of African Americans were able to even have seats in Congress
Hmm.
and were able to build their community, and did Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was one of the Black Wall Streets, but it wasn't only one.
Hmm.
And they were building their communities in
Hmm.
record time, their wealth. There were areas in Florida as well. These communities, and I'm going to say handle the communities first. These communities were destroyed outright by white people. I mean,
Hmm.
Tulsa was straight up bombed,
Hmm.
by in with airplanes.
Hmm.
With the people in Congress, or the representatives in Congress, there were systematic threatenings that discouraged Black people from getting into Congress. And I don't mean just verbal, physical.
Hmm.
There were communities where Black people were hung, where
Hmm.
voting rights were concerned. They were killed. So
Hmm.
each time Black communities would pick up themselves, dust themselves off, and rise to the occasion, they were once again demolished and
Hmm.
obliterated to the ground. And this is the type of knowledge that is not out there. I mean, it doesn't benefit the dominant culture for that information to be out, and you have to dig really for this information. But
Hmm.
that's what's not known when we say the Jews and the Mexicans they're taking advantage of these opportunities where Black people are not. African Americans are, and they do, and they have. But what the Jews have been afforded, what the Asians have been afforded, are several things. Number one, they were able to stay in their own land for the most part. I won't say that for the Jews, but they got their own
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
They were able to congregate amongst each other. And at some point, they were left the F alone to be able to build of themselves. African
Hmm.
Americans have over and over not been able to do that, specifically because they're in a land that is not theirs, that
Hmm.
we're trying to flourish in. So,
Hmm.
I feel hot about that particular subject because yes, African Americans have taken advantage, and they continue to. The
Hmm.
rights where African Americans are concerned,
Hmm.
for the most part, minus Haiti becoming the first Black republic and
Hmm.
influencing many revolutions in other countries,
Hmm.
the civil rights movements and many movements within the US have influenced and encouraged and help to uplift many other cultures around the world. So
Mhm.
African Americans are a beacon of light for many, but they remain unrecognized for it at the same time, is what I would
You think
say.
so?
Yes. Because something like that, where it's like, other cultures have the same thing has happened to other cultures, but Black people, we continue to be, at the bottom of the rung, not realizing that they're being kicked. You're being kicked while you're down, while you're up, while they're, and those things are not being recognized. So while they're a beacon of light, there is no understanding or knowledge of what's going on in between the spaces that aren't
Mhm.
discussed. Like
Mhm.
if you're continually like, if you have like counties and states that are sundown states where people can't
Mhm.
travel, Black people can't travel freely, these types of I wouldn't even call them microaggressions, but um these types of how do you call that, incidences, first of all,
Mhm.
have a very deep psychological effect on the
Mhm.
people who are, affected by it. But also, when
Mhm.
it's not known, you're not recognizing why people are not flourishing and blossoming. Meanwhile, behind their backs, they're being pricked, they're being stabbed,
Mhm.
there's so many aggressions and things happening that are pushing Black people in America down, that it's
Mhm.
now that these things are becoming of a greater knowledge. So it's
Mhm.
not all of what it looks like, but it's made to look a certain way. So I would
Mhm.
say Black people, especially African Americans, there are so many things at play that is
Mhm.
not seen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you
Black
for
people in
sharing.
this country would have been rich as hell, if they were left alone. I know that for sure.
So let's bring it to now.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, you've taken us
Mm-hmm.
through history
Mm-hmm.
and now, and we know that history always has an influence on, the future if we are not learning from it, right?
Right.
Let's talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, knowing all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
now, like you said, using the opportunities that's afforded to you. And I want this to be more vast
Mm-hmm.
and broad as opposed to just the States,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not something that I will be able to comment on fully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
And all I know really is the States. So that's why I mentioned the States,
um,
because I'm sure these aggressions are happening. I know they're happening in other places too, but I cannot
um,
speak to them.
because I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. I'm saying all of these things, like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate because this
Right,
is what
right,
people
right,
will
right,
say,
right.
right? This is the argument you're going to get, counter
Mm-hmm.
argument for everything that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So you fast forward now,
Mm-hmm.
and the opportunities are still afforded to you, right? And if you're saying you're taking all of these opportunities and it's your responsibility to have the knowledge or whatever, what are we doing about it now? Because if you're saying there are pockets doesn't mean the full community. Pockets
Correct.
is almost like different opportunities affording to certain people for whatever reason. That could
Mm-hmm.
be anything in
Mm-hmm.
any area of their career or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing now that is different? If we are doing anything now that is different.
So I would say, in this day and age, first I want to say you don't know what you don't know, basically.
Mhm.
So a lot of people are out here not knowing that there is an aspect of finances that they don't know about. So we've got those pockets of people. Then we've got, you know, uh, uh, talks about stocks and bonds and all of that, the lack of education. If something is
Mhm.
not familiar to you, it's
Mhm.
harder for you to replicate it. So
Mhm.
there's that aspect where I would say I don't think every white person, obviously, and I'm gonna go to the States because that's where I am and I know the history in the States, but um,
Mhm.
the market, the stock market is dominated by the white culture. There is
Mm-hmm.
a reason why, again, wealth is multiplied upon multiplied in the stock
Wealth
market.
begets wealth.
Yes, man.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this is also generational. I wouldn't say it's just, but a lot.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
you see your father has a portfolio, your grandfather had a portfolio, all of that, it's natural to you. So
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna, and you see that it's working. So it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you're going to replicate with ease because you've almost learned it by osmosis, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not even something that you necessarily have to go and read about. You have your parents and the adults in your family and life, with this knowledge, you can go get mentored by them. This is not something that is so popular in the Black community. So
Mm-hmm.
now, I would even say for me, you don't know about something and there's no like welcome. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like, and I don't know how.
Do you think
um
it's like secret knowledge? It's almost like this isn't for
yes,
you, and
correct. And
people are
we're
playing
going to
their
do,
cards close to the chest?
correct.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to get out, but thank you for,
it's
because
okay.
I'm like, I don't know how it seems hidden, but yes, it's
Yeah,
something where it's almost like, yeah, you're going to make it sound like another language so that it's
yeah,
harder for others to understand. Meanwhile, it's a
to
simple
turn them
thing.
off. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So that's what I believe is happening, has happened in the community now that,
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell us we can't read and we can't
Mm-hmm.
get jobs. So it'll
Mm-hmm.
be coded in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I see now is I do see some African American males, and I would say, again, from what I know, I see them teaching about the stock market. There's
Mm-hmm.
one in particular that I recently learned about, which is who's called the Wall Street Trapper. And I
Mm-hmm.
particularly like him because he is a person, he went to prison for 10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
it is a white man in prison who
Mm-hmm.
sat down and showed him
Mm-hmm.
basically how it is that he makes money. He went
Mm-hmm.
and learned it and read for himself. He said, well, you have
Mm-hmm.
nothing but time in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And now he is using what he has learned, not only
Mm-hmm.
to better himself and his children,
Mm-hmm.
but he is also teaching this. So
Mm-hmm.
once you have someone in your community that is relatable, that is
Mm-hmm.
helping you to decode, this is
Mm-hmm.
how you get into a market that's basically designed for you not to get into because, yeah, people don't want Black people to get rich and all of that. So,
I would
yeah.
preface that also by people in our community having the desire to want to know, because you can have someone who wants to teach you, but if you have no desire to know, if you don't have any desire to better your situation, it's never going to happen for you. That's how I
Again,
see
I
it.
think
Because
that's created for it. If we care about getting the bag, if we care about something like that, I think it's something that was created for it to be a turn off. I think once people are not intimidated by it, the desire to want to know is going to be upped. I think it's
I
created to be a
disagree.
turn off. Mhm.
I disagree for that because I think we both worked in finance, right? We both had
Mhm.
experiences working in finance. For me, seeing so many people in investment banking and asset management,
Mhm.
I knew that these are the people. Let's talk about people from our community, right?
Mhm.
So let's just take a step back from the US and come to Africa or Europe,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So most of us are from Nigerian descent, Ghanaian descent, Congolese descent, Sierra Leone, wherever.
Mhm.
Um, and having worked in finance, I saw, so this is what really made me so happy. I saw a whole generation of young people, super young people, studying and getting into finance And I thought to myself, wow, this is, well, for us anyway, back home, it's more of a given. You know, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. It's almost like your careers are already planned out for you,
Mhm.
right? We don't really get to have a say in what we want to do in terms of career paths.
Mhm.
But the desire and the passion that you see in these young people who get jobs with Goldman Sachs, who get jobs with Morgan Stanley, who get jobs with all of these different asset management, or all of these different firms, and they are breaking these limitations that, let's say, their family had because their they're children of immigrants, or not even that, their parents have been in the UK or been in wherever in Europe for a very long time, but still, like you said, it wasn't afforded to them. They didn't have the capacity, they didn't have the opportunity, they didn't have the understanding, they didn't have, the connections, they didn't have the lingo.
Mhm.
But once they got their foot in the door and was creating kind of this free flow of young Black kids going into asset management or going into just finance in general,
Mhm.
it became a situation where it was like, you have other young people looking up to them and saying, wow, if that person can do it, then I can do it too. And them also saying, well, we have, let's say, networking events where we're creating all of these things for other people to be able to get into the workplaces that we're in. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Having connections where it's like you're trying to teach other people to do it. So for me, it all depends on also if you want, because you can have people like that who are like, hey, you can learn this too and you can do the same thing. And it's like, well, no, there's someone who's like you, who represents you, you have an image that's similar to you in those kind of spaces. But there are people who are like, nah, man, that's not for me,
Yeah.
right? As much
So
as you can say, okay, well, that's what was created. So that I'm not a finance person. I'm not someone who's like, oh, I need to know this. But I'm someone who loves knowledge. I love knowledge. I need to know about everything, about everything, about everything, right? But there's just some things that you're not going to be interested in if you feel like you making your money is enough.
so I still disagree with this because I think, like, say for the young people that you were saying really didn't have a choice in what your career is going to be. You have to listen to your family
Yeah.
and do
Doctors,
whatever
lawyers,
career.
engineers.
So even in that, those young people were not interested in doing what they were doing. They were
No, they had the
forced.
forge. No, they had a choice of four things.
So
Technically,
that's
they
what
took
I'm
that four.
saying. So even there, they had to be bullied. And once they were bullied into it, it's like, oh, so there's knowledge in here that I can use to better myself. So to me, there is a level of these things don't look attractive to the average human being because it takes a lot of work, it takes studying, it takes a lot of that. I think naturally, as human beings, we don't want to do that. Do I like knowledge? Yes. Do I like knowledge easily fed to me? Yes. I would way prefer knowledge that like I
Mm.
can get without having to read 1,000 books, but that's just not how it works. So what I'm saying is, as human beings, I think we prefer the easy way. So with that, now you have these young people who have kind of stumbled over the fact that, oh, this career path is actually something that is beneficial and it's exciting because you could get rich and rich and rich. But how long did it even take them to get there? Because
I don't think I definitely disagree with that. I disagree
okay,
with that because
well,
you have to be good at it. You can't just stumble onto it because you study. You have to be good at it.
yes, be good at it, but in the beginning, going into it wasn't their idea. It was something that was completely put upon them by their parents.
Yeah,
So,
but they still
so
could say no. And all I'm saying is that's just the African mentality of, hey, we would like you to be this and this and this and this. You still have a choice to say no. They don't force you like you have to go, but preferably you have parents who are like, I want you to be a doctor, lawyer, da 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 da. That's just
but
it. Whether
what
you
I'm
come from an Indian
saying
family or
is,
whatever, it's the same.
even if you're so even if you're not forced to choose the one career path, it's something where it's being encouraged by another
Mhm,
person. It's not
mhm,
something where it's like, oh, I've decided that this is what I want to
mhm,
do. If the decision were
mhm,
left to a lot of these young people, another decision would be made, is what
mhm,
I'm getting at. So
mhm,
I'm also drawing the same conclusion with these individuals, with other individuals who say they're not really interested in finances. So for me, I would say, like, I stumbled into finances.
mhm,
Straight up.
mhm,
I'm really good at working in gray spaces. I'm an operational person. So,
mhm,
really, that is a space I can work in any type of industry. So,
mhm,
I really didn't have an interest, even though I know that in finances people are rich, because I didn't feel like there was a space for me in it. And that's what
mhm,
I'm really trying to say about people. I wouldn't say for
mhm,
every single human being who's not interested
mhm,
in finances, I wouldn't say
mhm,
that it's this is the situation. But
mhm,
when, for a majority of people, when you feel like you can't relate to something,
mhm,
and it's created that way, you now
mhm,
think you're turned off, but it's not that you're turned off. It's created to look like a
mhm,
turn off. So once you
mhm,
have an individual, like I would say the Wall Street Trapper, this is a dude who was in prison, who, like, he
mhm,
taught himself. Many people can relate to him. And for me,
mhm,
I'm saying from that angle, if somebody like that can make it,
mhm,
you're now
mhm,
catching a lot of those individuals who would
mhm,
seem turned off. So it's
mhm,
similar to what you're saying with the young people who get into finances, and other young
mhm,
people look at
mhm,
them and say, if they can
mhm,
do it, I can do it. So
mhm,
often, if you're not able to relate to something, you're going to
mhm,
think the thing is not for you. Because even when I was younger, I didn't even think voting was that important, because I didn't, not that it wasn't important, I thought me voting wasn't important because I felt like I didn't matter in the society. Did people
wow.
outright tell me that I didn't matter in society? No,
Oh.
but it is something that's perpetuated and in the air. So I think
Mhm,
once we start to break down those barriers that
mhm,
are not visible, because it's not like you can show a person, see, there's
mhm,
this barrier here,
mhm,
that's why. It is a lot of undertones that
mhm,
are not recognized, which goes back to what I was saying earlier. So
mhm,
many undertones just detracting
mhm,
Black people and people in
mhm,
general
mhm,
towards certain successes. So,
mhm. For me, I don't think it was a situation of uh, whether it be being interested in finances or having someone mentor me. I think it was growing up, seeing my mum struggle. From a very young age, I made up my mind like, "Psh, being broke is not for me." Do you know what I mean? I think it's that it's almost like you're constantly on heat, where you're like, I can't be broke. And knowing how being broke feels like, and knowing what lacking feels like, and knowing like having to constantly scrape and try to survive and share space with so many people and not have anything to call your own and not have anything that you can physically hold and say, this is mine. From a very young age, I was aware of that. I was very, very aware and made a decision from a very young age. Whether I know about it or not, whether I have an understanding or not, I'm going to make sure that I'm not in this position. I'm going to make sure that, and that's not even to slag off my own family or whatever, because I know that I was given everything that my mom could give me. I know that my mom made the sacrifices she needed in order for all of us to have what we have. But for me, it wasn't enough. And just like you said, I stumbled into finance because I was working in marketing. Communications is my thing. It wasn't because I was trying to build portfolios or anything like that.
mhm,
And being in this environment, communicating, whether it be with CEOs, CFOs, or whatever, who ran their own teams, I was learning from the people who I was working with,
All right.
right? I had a passion to make money and that was it. But it was one of those things where as you're learning the job, there's certain job requirements and job titles where you go, oh, I wonder what that person, I'm nosy, you know this. I don't know if our listeners know this. I'm nosy. What does this mean? Like, I'm curious. I'm naturally curious. I want to know things, even if it doesn't relate to me, even if I don't understand it. Tell me what it is. So I found myself constantly asking questions. What does this mean? What does this mean? Tell me more. What does this mean? What does this mean? Not really understanding that it was benefiting me in the long run. And then after that, when I realized, oh, this is how you do this, this is how you do that, this is how you do that, I was just gaining all this information. And then also having my husband, who's A1 when it comes to money management, right? But again, I think that goes back to what you were saying, Rachel, about having family members or having, I don't want to say generational wealth in his instance, but I think having people who are so aware
Who set
of
the
how,
example for you already.
who set, yes, who set the example for you already and from a very young age, teach you.
Right.
Not just how to make money, like I'm really talking about the lingo, teach you of constantly like where to invest your money, where are you going to get the biggest profit, how to spend your money, how to, all of these different things. And this is not a situation saying like, oh, my husband's rich or anything like that. No, it's about really being intelligent and wise about what you have, right? And
but I do think it's important to, not to interrupt you though, that your husband isn't Black. I think that's
absolutely.
a very important
That's a
distinction
very, very
here.
important. And also my husband's mother is an accountant, right? So that's another thing as well, of having someone who is like, who, and this is the thing,
in that industry.
But this is the thing, the first accountant in their family, nobody else is, right? And she didn't go to university. She literally, again, stumbled into finance like you and I, but stayed in it, worked in it, tried to figure out a way and became an accountant. Everything she learned, because she didn't have the tools. Parents didn't give her the tools. Her family members didn't give her tools. These are the tools that she learned to give to her son, who then gave to me. So put that together with what my husband taught me and what I learned working in finance myself. It taught me so much of what we lack.
Yes.
Because we are more than capable of so much. And I think that's why it's such a burden for me, right? And it really hurts me so much when I see people flaunt so many things online and care about appearances more than actually doing the work, like Rachel said, of like, try and learn. The information is out there. Fair enough, you can say that, there's people who are trying to block us, but there is information out there. There is a way.
But I'm putting myself in this same category. This was me. So I'm not setting myself apart. Finances was not something that I was attracted to. I found it boring. I hated it. I myself am a person who was there. So I'm not separating myself from those people. Yeah.
So it really hurts me when I, because for me, my responsibility is my siblings. So when I get the knowledge and go, oh my gosh, this is benefiting me and this is good, automatically I turn to my sister and my siblings and say, hey, you guys, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And that's how we grow as a community, right? By sharing the information that we have, by sharing the knowledge that we have. It just really, really hurts me a lot when I see value given to the materialistic things, the gains that we get with the money that we make, as opposed to, but it's still hurtful. Do you know what I mean? Whether we taught it or not, because it's constantly being perpetuated, right? And what makes me sad is if you have someone who is trying to teach you. I always love Jay-Z when he talks about this, like, hey, like, I'm trying to teach you game. I'm trying to help you to be able to get that generational wealth, but you guys are more interested in, the futures. You guys are more interested in popping bottles. You guys are more interested in this, or I'm trying to tell you, like, this is the way. But it's almost like we are drawn to the opposite. Does that make sense? When, like,
I do. It does make sense. I feel differently about that.
I feel burdened about that.
Mm,
That's how I feel. And I'm not saying every single person is like that. That's not what I'm
hmm.
saying. But it just seems like we are more drawn to the opposite, as opposed to just saying, you know what, if the information's out there, let's see what it is that we can find. Let's actually
I
try
so
and help out. That's how I feel like.
I
That's how
hear
I feel.
you and I honor what you're saying.
It hurts my
What
feelings.
I for me, the reason I feel so opposite is I think human beings fall under, like, there are just certain behaviors or
Yeah.
certain ways that we are. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think even though, say you and me are not like this with finances, there's
Yeah.
another area in our lives where we are like that, where somebody's
You
trying to
think so?
teach us, yes, this is how human beings are. When you're not ready to learn something,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
don't matter what it is, you're not going to take it in. So whether it's finances, whether it's emotional intelligence, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
spiritual intelligence, when you're
Mm-hmm.
not ready to be at that stage, it doesn't matter who's trying to teach you. And really,
But
people
some
be
people will
trying to
never be ready.
shove
Do you know what I
people,
mean?
or I wouldn't say people will never be ready, but people are
Some
not going to
people will
be
never be ready.
ready when we want them to be ready. Because we weren't ready. When somebody else was trying to teach us something, and I know in my 20s, I wasn't trying to hear nobody. I was like, I have a powerful personality. So there are just certain things that people don't learn by being told. You have to go through it.
Mm.
So I think a lot of people tend to forget that when you're trying to quote unquote teach somebody something. The
Mm.
teaching is not about you. It's about the
Mm-hmm.
person. So just because it's not happening in your time frame doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just doesn't, it just means that person isn't ready. Just like with me being taught certain things, I'm different from when I was 20 years old. There are certain
Mm-hmm.
things I had to learn the hard way. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like that with everybody. So when I say this particularly because I remember my ex-husband, like, he really tried to teach me about this. This is something of
Really?
vast interest to him. And he got me into investing in stocks, but I felt he
Mm-hmm.
was a bully about it. And I wasn't ready. No,
Oh my
seriously,
God.
you cannot make people do things. And you can't think
What?
that it's okay to make people do things, because you'll turn people off from something that is
But like, didn't he
really good for
explain to
them.
you the importance of it? Didn't he like
He
say to you like,
explained to
this
me
is what
the
it is?
importance, and then he got me to invest in the stocks. And it was something where I wasn't ready. I
But did you
wasn't
see the
ready.
importance of it at the
I
time or no?
learned later.
But
That's
that's what
why
I'm
you
saying.
can't,
In that moment, you didn't see the importance of it,
I
even though he
did
was telling you what the
not. Or
importance was.
even if I heard it, this is new information. You can't just think you're teaching somebody something and they're going to see it how you see it. That's, to me, that makes the knowledge, the what you're doing, selfish. It's not about the person, it's about you. If you need them to understand it how you're getting it, you need to give that person time. You give the knowledge, you have a desire, you want something for that person, but
Yeah,
you
good
ain't
things for that
God.
person.
But you're not God. So even with God and teaching us stuff, God is patient. God steps back. God don't force you, because things take time. So just because even with kids, you'll teach them something and knowledge now, and they'll throw up their hands and their eyes and they won't listen but when they're 20 years old, they're doing that thing that you taught them at 10. So
Or
I
they're
think
telling you that you was right all along, even if they're
something
not
like
sure.
that. So that's what I think when it comes to seeing people be wasteful and there's wastage, and
I hate
everybody
it.
has done it.
I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I totally understand where your ex-husband was coming from. Do you know why? Because people are rebellious, and just because you are not ready for it, it doesn't make it less good for you than later on, or vice versa.
It doesn't, but you
I,
expect them
you know
to
what I
get it
mean?
right then. That's the problem that I have, not the teaching. Because, like I
Yeah.
said, you don't stop teaching your kid just because they're not understanding. You don't stop, but you don't demand that they
Oh,
learn
that's
it
how you felt, that
when
he
you
demanded you.
want yes, I feel like if you're not just explaining and you're getting upset and you're all of
Mm,
that is happening, you're not
mm,
teaching that person for them, you're teaching them for you. But when you give the knowledge and you understand, just like every other human being, including yourself, that
mhm,
when you are ready for knowledge, when you are ready for it, you will retrieve it.
mhm,
Then you give that person the seed, you give them the freedom of reaching for that seed when they're ready. You don't
mhm,
stop teaching, but you don't force it
mhm.
down their throat either. Because if you do that, you literally will be doing something opposite than what you intended to do.
It's still a burden for me. I think when I see stuff like this online, or where I see, like, like, I don't want to say missed opportunities, but people just not caring, it really hurts my soul, because I know that we're more than that, and I know that we could be doing so much more, than just, okay, fine, whatever, like that. I think it's that laissez-faire attitude. I think that hurts me more than just being like, I'm not interested in finance. At least that's just being straightforward, but just not caring. For some, this is not for everybody, for some, it really, really is a burden for me.
But how many things
Um,
did you not care about when you were younger?
I think I didn't care
Because I
about,
remember you said that there were you just
like,
didn't
I
care.
didn't care. I didn't care in terms of things around me. I cared about myself. I think that's what it is. I cared about that. I wanted to be okay. Everything else, like, that was external, I didn't care about. Like, I don't care about what you've got going on. I don't care what the other person has going. Like, for me, that wasn't a thing. For me, I've always been aware of myself, because
So every piece of positive knowledge that you were ever given when you were younger, you took
no, of course not.
into,
Like, no, no, no. I'm talking
yeah.
about my own personal life. I'm not talking about day to day. The things that I didn't listen to is, don't drink. Of course I drank, right? That was the first thing that, what? I'm gonna go partying, I'm gonna drinking, I'm gonna stay out late, I'm gonna do everything that a young person does. But the one thing I was conscious about is me and my life. That's just me. I'm not talking about everybody else, and everybody's different. Me and my life, where I'm going, what's going to happen to me. And maybe this is me being morbid. I would always think, oh my gosh, if my mom passed away, what would happen to me? I was the eldest of 4 kids, and we lived in a house with a single parent. Um, our father was very irresponsible. Like I said, my mom was always struggling to make ends meet. And I always thought to myself, wow, my mind always went there. If something happened to my mom, what will happen to me and what will happen to my siblings? And because I was super young, right? I wouldn't have the capability of looking after them. And back in the UK, it was probably they'll put you in, um, they'll put you in care and whatnot. My whole thing was, I was very cognizant about the type of life that I wanted to live, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. Yeah, of course, I want to go drinking. Of course, I'm going to do all of these different things with my friends. But when it came to just die, I was that focused, because
In
I
that
was constantly,
area, in that area.
no, in every area,
Okay, so
who I'm
so
gonna
back
marry.
to what I was saying.
Every
So
area.
you think that every piece of knowledge that you received when you were younger, you follow to the T. That's what I'm trying to get at.
For the areas that I was interested in. Who am I going to get married to? What job I'm going to have? Where am I going to live? The people that I'm going to keep around me, all of these different things. Those are the things that I was cognizant for, right? Partying and enjoying myself, for me, that was like, okay, whatever. Those are the places where my parents, my mom and I butt heads, right? Because I craved freedom. I just wanted to be independent. And in an African household, you're not independent until your parents says you're independent. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
That's
I
where my
do.
struggle was. So for me, it was just, and it wasn't even about, this is another thing about knowledge. I wasn't given the knowledge where this is what you need to do for there and there. I was looking for it. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
was looking for the answers. but it wasn't like it was given to me. It was just disposable. It was one of those things where I craved it. I was looking left, I was looking right. I didn't find it. I will go there. I didn't find it. It was just me going, okay, I'm going to learn from this, learn from that, learn from these experiences. And but my focus and my desire was always on these things, whether I
I
gravitated towards it or not.
I would say for many people in the Black community, that type of knowledge was not out there. And if you wanted it, you did have to seek it. Um, but I will say, for the most part,
Mm-hmm,
just because you see something that's being handled in a laissez-faire
mm-hmm,
fashion, you're seeing just that one-dimensional thing that's taking
mm-hmm,
place. It doesn't
mm-hmm,
mean that behind the scenes other things are not happening. So that's where
mm-hmm,
I'm coming from, because I know
mm-hmm,
for myself as an individual how far I have come.
mm-hmm,
I was always intelligent, but I could be rash.
mm-hmm,
And those are things throughout the years that I learned
mm-hmm,
about and learned how to rectify and
mm-hmm,
became more intelligent at. So that's
mm-hmm,
basically what I'm saying. And I didn't take everybody's advice,
mm-hmm.
um, off the bat. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of youth are like that. And I think
Yeah, of
a
course.
lot of
But that
people
also doesn't have
forget
anything to do with
that.
intelligence, though, as well.
I think a lot of people forget that when they are teaching people. That's my
Mm,
whole thing here. It's like, just because you're teaching somebody, you cannot expect them to
mm,
behave in the way that you want just because you're teaching
mm,
them. The knowledge that you're giving, you are
mm,
giving it. You are
mm,
not responsible for how
mm,
and when that person begins
mm,
to activate what it is that they learn. So,
mm,
yes, you give the knowledge and
mm,
you pray, because there's a reason why you're teaching it. You're teaching it
mm,
for them to be better, but you're
mm,
not in control of when they do that. So just
mm,
because they're being lackadaisical about it at the time, I
mm,
don't think it's a waste. So even if it
mm,
continues to look like a waste, if you're
mm,
spreading and putting the knowledge out there and dropping those seeds, it will come back. And that is my whole
mm,
that's how I look at it. Yes, you're dropping these seeds. Yes, people are more attracted to ratchetness. I can't
mm,
stand ratchet. But I
mm,
see how many people are attracted to that, especially
mm,
young people. It's not
mm.
my it's not my responsibility to address or
Of course,
or
it's
so
not our responsibility, but what I'm saying is it still has an effect on us. Do you know what I mean?
it
Whether it's our
doesn't on
responsibility
me
or
because I
not,
knew how I
it
was.
it does because I care. Do you know what I mean? It's
I
not because of
care, but
like
I also
judgment
knew how
of
I
like
was.
you need to change or whatever. And what I wanted to preface is just because you rebel or you're not interested or you're not ready to receive it, it doesn't mean you lack intelligence. I don't think that's the same thing. It's just
I'm
not
not,
for
and
you at that
I
moment in
don't
time.
think so either. Because I was
Um,
intelligent, but
I
I was rebellious as hell.
yeah, so I don't think that's anything to do with that. I just feel like for us, I'm I have young siblings, very young siblings, and I know how they think about stuff as well. But it's just one of those things where it is for me, whether you're trying to give advice or not, it's still something that affects me, that does hurt me. It does
Okay.
make me feel like, oh wow, you know, I really hope or I really wish for them to see things clearly. It might not be my place to say, but it's still the way that I feel about it,
Okay.
right?
I For
Because it's one of
me,
those things where I want us to be better.
I have every hope that when you can retrieve that knowledge, I know I
Yeah.
did my job in giving it. So I've done my part, because I know how I was when I was younger, and
Yeah.
telling somebody to do something
Yeah.
is for me just not productive. It wasn't
Yeah.
productive for me. So I give people the independence that I wish I
Yeah.
would have had, but I
Hmm.
definitely give them the knowledge that
Mhm.
I have acquired. And to me,
Mhm.
this is what needs to be done in the Black
Mhm.
community, you know, to
Spreading the knowledge.
spread the knowledge, talk
Mhm.
about it often, because
Mhm.
just like when other things in the community is talked about often, you get curious, you're saturated with it, and it's something that becomes either more relatable or easy to reach for, or it's like, I've been hearing about this enough now, let me go and
Mhm.
find out what it's all about. I think that
Mhm.
that's the best and really
Mhm.
the only thing that can be done, because yeah, you can't make people do things that
Yeah.
they don't want to and not ready to. And
I would also
yeah,
say invest in your communities.
yes,
Invest in your communities, like support people in your communities, support the people who that are working hard to really help each other within that community that will also benefit you, because that's
yeah,
what I think we lose sight of. I think sometimes we are quite individualistic about our own,
yeah,
instead of seeing it like we are one community, we're supposed to help one another. And if this person benefits, I'm going to benefit, even if it's not immediately. In the long term, I'm going to benefit too.
right,
So that's where I stand by that for sure. And that's just not within the African American community, that's within the Black community as a whole.
yeah,
We are naturally like that, quite individualistic, and we need to have a community view, a communal view, more so than looking internally.
I
But that's
agree.
where I end.
I agree. And me being myself, and how to's are important to me. It's like, okay, you could
Hmm.
talk about a situation to death, but
Hmm.
how? If I'm
Hmm.
looking to become more financially literate, where
Hmm.
and how can I do that? So,
Hmm.
like I mentioned, the first guy, the Wall Street Trapper, I think he is
Hmm.
excellent because he comes from a very relatable place. So that's number
Hmm.
one. Number two, if you ever have something like a 401k at your job, invest in your 401k, because it is basically it is a portfolio, but you know,
Hmm.
your whole workplace is a part of
Hmm.
it. So if you have anything like a 401k, I would say invest the highest that you can. You have certain companies that will match you. I don't know if you have something like this in
No, we
the
don't have a
UK.
401k in
Do you
the
know what
UK.
it is though?
Vaguely,
Okay.
vaguely, but feel free to explain it to me.
Yeah, so a 401k is it is setting aside of money. A work company usually provides this, not all. And it is a way for you to set aside a percentage of your check, but that percentage is invested into the stock market. So
Hmm.
they take it pre-tax dollar, you
Hmm.
and it's taken away within every single check. And some companies will also go as far as matching your contribution, which is dope. So, like, say you take out like $100 per check, the company will also put $100 and
For each
will,
$100 that you take
yes,
out for a check,
yes,
right?
and then that will go into an investment in the stock market, which is great.
So when
So
you take that money out, you can do whatever you want with it, or is it pension money?
you can take it. It is how do you call it? It is taxed if you take it out early. You are penalized for it. So it's really a discouragement for you to take out the money and let it just continue to multiply, which that works. But if you do need to take it out for whatever reason it is that you want to take it out, you can. You will be penalized
But
for it
but its
monetarily.
actual purpose, is it for retirement?
It's
So to take it out
yes,
for
yes,
retirement, so it's
yes.
like
At
pension
a
plan.
certain age, yeah, at a certain age, you can take it out and it's not taxed. So yes,
Okay,
that's the
so it's like
main
pension.
reason, but not the only
Okay,
reason.
okay,
So
okay.
there is that, and that's the easiest way if you're
Hmm.
not interested in getting financially literate, but you want your money to make money for you. that works.
Mhm.
The other way, and I've discovered this newly. I know
Mhm.
people invest on the app Robinhood. I am not so schooled at this, but I know it
Mhm.
is a way that you can invest in stocks on Robinhood. I'm not
Mhm.
so informed. I
Mhm.
also know that Chase. I am a customer of Chase, and they have an area set aside in their app
Mhm.
where you can invest your money into,
Mhm.
how would you say, a diversified portfolio, which is,
Portfolio. Yeah.
I'm not going to, like, I don't know all the terms yet. I myself am learning, but why I'm saying a 401k is great. Um, you don't have to necessarily have the knowledge, all the knowledge, but somebody can lead you the right way, and your money could still be making mad money. Because
So that's a
I have
Kickstarter.
I have definitely made a good amount of money by using these particular things that I've talked about. So
Mm.
you don't have to
Mhm.
all the way know all the information in order to
Yeah.
invest your money and make
Absolutely.
money, but
Yeah.
know that you should invest your money.
We urge
It
you
is
all.
100%. So Grace and I were talking about this like a while back as far as saving
Yeah.
money is concerned.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
saving money was never a something that like turned me on, because I always felt like I can't see the money that I put away. But there's a difference between saving your money and having your money taken out and multiplied. Like for me, that is a turn on. I will, because when I was at my old job, and I'm going to have a portfolio also at my new job, and I already have a portfolio. But anyway, um,
Mhm.
I I contributed at the highest percent.
Yeah.
Now, and you know what? My ex-husband is the one who taught me about this. And you know what?
Praise God.
When I was ready, I reached for that knowledge. I had it.
Amen.
So
Amen.
yes, he taught me, and I was like, yo, look, I can't be doing all of what you say, but I had time to catch up, and
Mhm.
I utilized that knowledge when it served me
Amen.
well, which it did.
Brilliant.
Um,
Brilliant.
so well, damn, what was I saying about the portfolio for?
You were
Oh,
saying about saving and
yeah,
having your money go up.
yes.
Yeah.
For someone who didn't, I still don't care for savings, to be honest. And I do
Mhm.
have money set aside because I've
Mhm.
had quite a few rainy days and it came in
Mhm.
handy. But it it is way more attractive to me not just to have money set aside, but having money that I am not working for multiply. That for
Mhm.
me, if I don't know an individual who wouldn't want that.
Mhm.
Like, I
Mhm.
can understand a person saying, yeah, how is that possible? I don't believe it.
Mhm.
But once you
Mhm.
see that joint happening, why
Mhm.
wouldn't you want your own money to multiply while you're doing other things? So
Yeah.
for me, this is, I guess, a play on that multiple streams of income, because I'm not for that. I'm not going to do 5 jobs. That's not me.
Mhm.
But I am all for, wow, I don't have to do no work. And all I got to
Mhm.
do is like invest a certain amount of money and watch it go up, up, up,
Yeah.
up, up. Because I mean, it
Yeah.
goes up and down too, the stock market.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you have many different, when you're invested in several types of
Mhm.
assets, it's not something
Mhm.
that you have to worry about, because you're doing it for the long run, not the short run. It's a long game, basically.
For sure.
So
For
in my
sure.
ramble, hopefully you caught a few things that you
Yeah.
can walk away and do something with now at this moment. While you acquire knowledge, there are things that you can do right now to invest your
Yeah.
money. Phew,
Guys, I would urge you to also check out Patricia Bright
mm,
online. Patricia
mhm,
Bright is absolutely fabulous, and she comes from a financial background, and she used to work in, yeah, she used to work in finance in central London. And she's, I think most people know her as a YouTuber. She has two YouTube channels. One of them is for lifestyle vlogging or whatever. The second one is all dedicated to finances,
mm,
all dedicated to where to invest your money. She's even written a book about
mm,
making money.
mm,
So you can get the book, Or you can just watch all of her videos. So she invests, not only does she talk about stocks, bonds, and talks about investing in properties, she
Mm-hmm.
basically tells you again different streams of income. And if you're a YouTuber and you want to be able to get to know how to make money on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
go and look for Patricia Bright. She basically gives you game, right?
Okay.
How to do that. And this is not about trying to trick an algorithm or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
it's for you to really understand also contracts. She's very good at that. Understand
Mm-hmm.
every single thing that is coming up, every app update that
Mm-hmm.
YouTube brings up or whatever, for you to know the contracts that they have and how you can still make money, even though they try to I think terminology is what really intimidates people, because once you don't understand what your contract says or what the updates are or what it is that they're doing, you basically just click accept and that's it, and you don't even know how it impacts you. So she goes through all of that, and she talks about so many different things and so many different ways of how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money, and different streams of income, even if you're not online, even if you're not using social media.
You
She
said her
will
name is
give,
Patricia Albright?
yeah, no, Patricia Bright, just Bright.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Patricia Bright.
And I think currently at the moment she's basically doing viewings of all the properties that she's invested in, which she bought for a really low price or whatever. She basically remodeled them, sold them at a higher price. Obviously, she flips the properties as well. She gets
Mm-hmm.
money off of that. How to make
Mm-hmm.
money of having tenants. So many different things. This is just an
Right.
aspect of it, but go and have a look, because this is someone who actually understands money and
Right.
speaks the money language or whatever, right? And also check out her book too. So I would definitely recommend that. And also, just one last thing I think we need to talk about that I think within our community that we really need to step away from is thinking that debt is acceptable. I'm not talking about good debt. I'm not talking about credit card debt that you utilize wisely
Mm.
to be able to help you, but I'm just talking about just general debt, owing money, never paying it back, having a bad credit, all of that stuff.
Mm.
I'm not going to go into details with that, but I think this is something that we in our community, we need to just back away from, right? It's not good. Having bad credit is not good. And
Right.
I know, because I've been there. I've had the worst credit. Like, I've clawed my way out of bad credit,
Mm.
um, just to be able to be on the positive. And this is another thing, doors open up to you. You have good credit, so many doors open up to you
So
as well. There's
many.
opportunities, so many good things come with having good credit. So I think I can stop there because I don't want to go into another rabbit hole, but that I would finish on a positive note. Let's all try and get good credit.
Yes. So that is it for us today.
Yeah.
I would say I'm definitely not, obviously, a financial advisor, nor am I all the
Never.
way honed in on how and where to invest money. But I
Yeah.
just wanted to show that also as an example, as you
Yeah.
don't need to know all of
You
it
don't. You
to
don't.
benefit from it, but
Exactly.
you ought to be, when you can,
Yeah.
do something.
Yes.
And I look forward to hearing, feedback and how it is that people have invested or made money. And, in the future of, what, I can't do this right now, but thank you for the information. And,
Yeah.
I plan to in the
Absolutely.
future, or, what, I don't
Absolutely.
give a damn about this. It's okay. It's okay, because I did my job and spoke about it. We did
For
our
sure.
job.
I totally
So
agree with that.
I have been Rachel. Dun, dun,
And I have been
dun.
Grace. Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at the Sassy Rachel. You can find this podcast on Instagram at nope, not the Soul Speak underscore podcast. Every week I do this on Instagram. And Grace.
Yes, yes, guys, I'm still here. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Grace_Kogrena. And you can also find me on Instagram. And my Instagram handle is at the_reading_hideout. I write Kidlit, so you can be able to find all of the stuff and the work that I'm doing there and keep up to date with everything that I've got going on. So that'll be great to see you guys. Like, comment, share.
Thank you
Tell us
so
exactly what you guys
much.
think.
Thank you.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure, and I look forward to hearing back from you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.